this one is how to stratify seeds in the refrigerator in small spaces. So I ended up doing a lot of seeds in the fridge this year instead of out in flats like I did last year, just because space is at a premium. So this method will allow you to stratify a lot of seeds in a pretty small space. All right, so let's get started. Let me run through the supplies that I'm using here real quick. I've got a big old tub of vermiculite right here. That's the medium that the seeds will be stratified in. Got some fridge labels. You don't need to do anything fancy like this. I just happen to have these, but masking tape, painter's tape also works well for this purpose. A couple different Sharpies. Fine point is my preferred for this purpose, but got a couple Sharpies here. And then these ball jars are the perfect size, I think, for stratifying the number of seeds that I am working with. These are the 1/4 pint or 4-ounce jars. And then, of course, lots of seeds. So as you can see, I've already done some here. Also very important, my stirring stick. I like the metal one because things still stick to it, but it's a little bit easier to get them unstuck than it is with a wooden one. So I've also got filtered water here. This is reverse osmosis filtered water. I do not like to use chlorinated water when stratifying seeds. I feel like it is potentially detrimental. Rainwater generally isn't chlorinated, so my preference is to use the filtered water just because seeds are really sensitive, different contaminants in the water, and by having filtered water, I feel like that increases my germination success. And then, of course, a notebook here for record keeping. So, as you can see, these jars are labeled. What I'm doing here for yellow coneflower, for instance, as you can see, the germination code on here is C30, which for Prairie Moon means it needs to be cold, moist stratified for around 30 days. So on my jars, I am labeling up here that I've got C30 for the 30 days of stratification. I've got the common name and the abbreviated scientific name, the date that I'm putting these in, and then up here the date that they will be ready to come out. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to take my jars, open them up, get some vermiculite out of here. And then, so I want to leave a fair amount of headspace in this jar. That'll make it easier for me to kind of mix everything up. So if you can kind of see that there. That's actually a little bit on the full side, but this is pretty good. Alright, so the species that is going to go into this particular jar is this coneflower here. So then what I'm going to do is just open this up and dump them all in. So these seeds are not the smallest that I've worked with, but when they are small, especially, it's important for me to kind of pour them all around the jar just to help mix them in a little bit, because everything gets a little sticky once I put some water in here. So this isn't a perfect science, but this is just a couple teaspoons maybe, a little under a tablespoon of water. And then I've got my handy dandy stirring stick, and what I'm gonna do is stir this up as well as I can. I want to get these seeds as evenly distributed through this vermiculite as possible. That's going to make it easier for me when I dump this out on a tray to get it evenly distributed over the cells. Alright. So that's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to take it and tap it a little bit to get it to level out. Make sure the seed is in contact with moist vermiculite. And then I've got my lids here. Label. Alright, so now what I'm going to put on here is the common name, which is long-headed coneflower, and abbreviated Latin name is going to be R. columnifera. Today's date, that's going to be the 23rd. And this particular species is a stratification code of C30, means cold moist for 30 days. And that means the date that it's going to come out will be 3/25. With the stratification days, like for C30 for example, that means that you're going to get optimal germination by stratifying for at least 30 days. You will still get some germination with less stratification, it just won't be as good. So if you're in a time crunch, you can try 2 to 3 weeks and you'll probably still get some, especially with species that are pretty easy to germinate. But ideally you'll go that full 30 days if that's what's required. So I've got some other ones that I'm doing today that are going to be 60 days. And as these seeds are coming along, I'm going to take them out of the refrigerator probably once a week and just make sure that there's not a lot of mold growth happening. So while I'm doing this, this isn't super sterile practice, but I have washed my hands. These jars are clean. The vermiculite is clean. This tote that it's put in is new. Nothing else has been in it besides the vermiculite. And you just want to keep, you know, this isn't, I've worked in labs before. This definitely isn't like super sterile practice, but just do the best you can because you don't want to, if mold growth gets in there, it's going to kill all your little seedlings, and that's tragic. So just be a little clean as you're doing these. So yeah, now I am going to keep plugging away on these jars. So here I've got some foxglove beard tongue, which are teeny tiny. So as I put these in here, I'm going to try and sprinkle them around so that it's easier to get an even mixture into this. I really love to watch my pile of seed packets grow as I do jars. It makes me feel like I've accomplished things today. Okay, so as I'm going along here, these seed packets, I don't know if you can see down here, but they have the approximate number of seeds that are in the packet. So for the Corydalis here, there's only 50 seeds, and that's something I'm going to want to know as I am taking these out of jars. So I went ahead and added that on there as an extra piece of information that there's only 50 seeds in here. And that means I'm probably going to put these all in one flat of soil together instead of my cells. Since there are so few seeds in here, I want to make sure I get a plant from each of them. Alright, so for the seeds that they send just absolutely a ton of, like this early sunflower here, I'm going to go ahead and save some of that for future germination. So for some of the species that I know are really popular, I'll do multiple sowings of those, meaning I will have them available throughout the summer. So for those, I just tape them back up and stick them back in the seed fridge until I need to bring them out and get another round started. Alright, so as these guys are going in the refrigerator, what I want to do is, you don't want them to be super tight. So as I'm putting these into the refrigerator, I don't want them to be super tight. So you want to put the jar on there, give it a good tighten, and then give it a little loosen. So you want it to have a little bit of looseness. You don't want it to be super cranked down, and that's to allow just a little bit of breathing room circulation. This here is my seed fridge, and keep it pretty cold. I'm gonna get a thermometer in here later, but so I've got it set all the way at the coldest setting right now, and this is because the closer the seeds are to freezing, the less likely mold will grow. However, you don't want to keep them at freezing all the time, like you don't want them in the freezer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a thermometer in here, and then every few days I'm going to tweak this a little bit. So fluctuation in temperature is thought to help break down that seed coat and stimulate that seed to germinate a little bit better. If you think about it, as you go through winter in nature, you're not going to have consistent temperatures all the time. So every few days I'm going to come out here, tweak this, check the temperatures, make sure I'm within that 30 to 40 degree range. That is ideal. And since these are clear, I can come out and check them for mold growth, things like that. If you see mold growth, you can try removing it and refluffing the vermiculite, but usually, unless you're almost right at the time where you're going to take the seeds out, it's probably a bit of a lost cause once you get mold growing in there. So yeah, these guys are ready to get cooking. Now I'm going to show you how I take those seeds once they are stratified and get them loaded into trays. So I have my Pro Mix over here mixed in with Milorganite. 1 part Milorganite for 10 parts Pro Mix. And I'm going to get my flat filled up here. So now that my flat is filled, I'm going to take this, which is foxglove beard tongue, and I am going to sprinkle the vermiculite seed mixture on top of the cells here. So in packets of foxglove beard tongue, generally there's like 1,000 seeds or more. So, and it is a pretty ready germinator. This should result in a pretty full tray. Then I'm going to take these persimmon seeds and I'm going to set them outside. I've got them covered up with their hardware cloth. Make a note of the tray number and put that down in record keeping. And then these guys are good to go until they start germinating. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the video today on how to stratify seeds in small spaces. Stay tuned for more super exciting native plant content coming up in the near future. Alright, thanks. Are you happy it's warmer now? Get to spend some time outside. Hey girls!